marching. Tired of marching for something that should have been mine at birth. I don't mind saying to you tonight. I don't mind saying to you tonight that I'm tired of the tension surrounding our day. I don't mind saying to you tonight that I'm tired of living every day under the threat of death. I have no martyr complex. I want to live as long as anybody in this building tonight. And sometimes I begin to doubt whether I'm going to make it through. I must confess I'm tired. I'm tired of marching.
Love and welcome. Peace and love and welcome to Black Press USA's morning show, Let It Be Known. Stacy's out today, but nevertheless, we have more news and more voices to speak to the joy. That's why we started the show off with a little joy. And of course, what our nation is currently experiencing on a day where one of probably the most notable civil rights leaders was born. And I'm talking about Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. So I say happy King Day to you as we tackle some of the conversations and issues that he fought for in the 60s and 50s. And of course, all of the other civil rights leaders that shoulders he stood on. And so, of course, last night we heard that federal agents have shot another person. Not killing, but shot another person in Minneapolis. And of course, officials are saying that the officer was assaulted and he responded with shots fired. But we know that we're still trying to grapple with what happened to Renee Good. So more protests happened last night. My phone was blowing up with just boots on the ground footage. And it looked like we have entered a civil war. I saw white men. I saw videos of white men last night crying, white veterans saying, this is unbelievable. This doesn't look like the country they serve. And white men saying that leaders are not going to save us. Democratic leaders can't save us. They were saying, Tim Walz, God bless his heart, he released a statement, chilling statement, state of address to his constituents in Minnesota and the nation, talking about what's happening down there. So if you haven't heard about what's happening in Minneapolis and what happened overnight, I think we have a video to show you. Or maybe not. Greer. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Do we have a video? Okay, so the share has stopped, she said. So we'll continue, but what's happening in Minneapolis is important for you to know because it is basically what is taking place, or what many are saying the Trump administration is prepared to take out across our nation. And as you have protests happening, something else is happening down in Tennessee. Now, I don't know if you've heard, but the 2026 Tennessee legislative session began this week, day before yesterday. And as you saw at the opening of the show, Rep. Justin Jones, he showed up on the first day of session holding a flag reading abolish ICE. And that's what he did as he walked in. Now, Republicans were doing other things, and I'm going to get the tea from our next guest. I want to know if they really did something. But they opened up the session and with a super majority, meaning that they basically control the state. The Republicans run the state of Tennessee with the supermajority, and they said they plan to use the session to expand school vouchers, trim some taxes, and support Trump's immigration crackdown. Now, one threat to Dems that should be highlighted is that legislation. They're presenting legislation that would seek to remove elected officials from office and subject them to felony charges if they release confidential information about immigration operations. So joining us right now is somebody on the front line trying to do the best they can to organize her colleagues. Welcome, Karen Camper, Tennessee Minority Leader and Chair of the Black Leaders Legislative Network. Good morning and happy
Hey,
King
good
Day.
morning. How are you? I'm doing good.
I'm good.
Today is my birthday too, by the way.
Oh, okay, what an honor to be born on such an
No.
iconic day, and
Yes.
to be doing the work.
Yeah.
You're still continuing the work of civil rights, fighting for it in a state that really is on the front line for policy right now. And shaping what immigration policy will look like from state to state, in a certain sense. So I want to
Mhm.
start with you. There were reports that Republicans on the first day of session could be heard chanting, "Whose house, our house." Now, is that true?
It might be. I missed that if it was because actually because of that video leak of the deputy speaker talking about meeting with Stephen Miller and all of that, we really had like hundreds and hundreds of people show up to protest and to say that we don't like this, we're not with this. And a lot of them was clergy from all over the state saying, no, this is so they're loud. Their voices was the loudest voice that we heard going in the chamber. But I could see that there probably some of their members probably was yelling back, "Whose house, ours house." But to be honest with you, it's the
Yeah,
people's house.
right. And so, talk to us about that video. So, we're going to try to play the video, the audio of what represent Zachary saying that he's been
Mhm.
working closely with Stephen Miller,
Mhm.
and they're about to drop some legislation. So talk
Mhm.
to us about what it means to be under a supermajority and how that could impact a lot of civil rights and liberties for the constituents of Tennessee.
Well, to be honest, they've already been doing this. This is not anything new for this supermajority. We've passed hateful legislation in the past. They've had the slate of hate, against LGBTQ. We've had, this type of legislation against refugees. People who will come here seeking some, to get away from oppressive regimes. So they have been doing this type of stuff all along. What has happened, however, is with the president and the way the president have been acting with respect to ICE and some of the things he's been doing and cracking down on immigration, they feel more emboldened to do more. And so that's
Hmm.
why you have them going to Washington, meeting with the administration, coming up with hateful legislation to oppress even more people than they've been doing before. I mean, we have a law that just went into place January 1st. I don't know if you heard about this, but what it is if you are in the country illegally, let's say you came on a visa, your visa expired, you had driver's license, in Texas because you were working the fields or whatever you were doing out there, and you come to Tennessee, and they check and say, "Oh well, hey, you're illegal now. Your visa has, you can't drive in Tennessee." So you go subject to a $500 fine, 6 months in prison if you're here driving in Tennessee. So it's this "we don't want you here in Tennessee" mindset that they have. So this is nothing new for this Republican supermajority.
Yeah, I just think that people from a national perspective are paying attention now because it's unbelievable of how this Trump administration is attacking, the nation, not
Yeah.
just from a physical military presence, but from state levels, and it's kind of hard to keep up sometimes because they're throwing
Mhm.
so much at us. But I read that you have military background. Is that
I do.
correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so when we see what happened overnight in Minneapolis, I mean, they were in the streets, throwing grenades and tear gas, and people were crying, and it was unbelievable. As somebody that represented the United States in the military, what are your thoughts in response to the actions that this Trump administration and how they're using our military on its own citizens?
Yeah, I don't like it, and I don't think that the members like it. I feel like when you're in the Army or the Navy, whichever branch you're in, and you're, sworn to protect and serve against all enemies, and the commander in chief orders you to go and do a particular mission, then you are legally bound to go and do that. And so it puts the soldier in conflict with their own self, because I'm trust me, a lot of them probably are not with, we're not, responsible for cracking down on our own people.
Right.
So it's tough for military servicemen. I'm sure a lot of them are young servicemen who just want to serve their country, take care of their families, and find themselves in conflict with this order coming from this president. But remember, this guy is a bully. He will, get rid of you. Next thing you know, you're in the, you maybe locked up for not following the order. And so I think people are having conflict with, in fact, trying to accomplish this mission, and it's horrible for families.
Yeah, if you're just tuning in, we're speaking with Tennessee Minority Leader Karen Camper. She's also the chair of the Black Leaders Legislative Network, and you preside over Memphis. And at one point, Memphis was on the target list to send the ICE agents and federal the what is it called, the National Guard. National Guard. So give us a state of like, what are they still there? Is ICE in Memphis? Do you see the same patterns that are happening in Minneapolis ramping up in Memphis?
Well, they've been in Memphis for a while with the multi safety task force thing that they call it. And people there don't. I mean, we've had protests in Memphis saying we don't want, especially the National Guard, and ICE. We don't want that here. And because there's this perception that Memphis is a sanctuary city, that somehow that has a negative connotation because your police are working with immigrants to solve crime. The Republican supermajority feel it's okay to send, this type of law enforcement to Memphis. And so, it's not like as bad as it is in Minneapolis, but every week you have protests saying we don't want that here. Leave us alone. We're doing fine. Our crime is going down. Our mayor's working hard, both county and city mayor. The police director. Everybody has been working to bring crime down because, of course, that's what everybody want to be safe.
Mhm.
But generally our National Guard, you'll see them that they have a presence, but they're not. It's nothing like what's happening in Minneapolis.
Yeah, are you concerned that as you see what's happening in Minneapolis, that your state might be the next, place where they ramp up?
It could be because of the presence, because the presence is already here, and people are beginning to protest even more. And this hateful legislation is about to come up, and based on Deputy Speaker Zachary, he says it's an entire package.
Well, let's hear that. So for those who don't know what we're talking about, I think Greer has that clip queued up so we all can hear what Zachary had to say.
This has not been talked about publicly, but one of the primary objectives in the session that we're getting ready to start, and you're going to see this out of the gate, is the state of Tennessee has been working with the White House for about the last 6 weeks. Our speaker has been at the White House numerous times. He has been working with Stephen Miller, and they have asked Tennessee to go first. And we're going to be proposing a slate of legislation to go after illegal immigration. And the president's behind us, and we are being told Tennessee will go first. This is coming from Stephen Miller, the White House, with us. We had a leadership meeting about 4 or 5 weeks ago with the Senate and the House. Tennessee is going to lead the nation. This has not been talked about publicly, but one of the primary
so when we talk about the session starting this week, that was Tennessee Rep Jason Zachary. Did you guys know that the Republicans were going back and forth meeting with Stephen Miller?
No, I don't follow I don't follow what they do, just like they probably don't follow my moves like that. But no, we didn't know that they were meeting back and forth with, like he said, that it wasn't public, even to the group he was talking to. Fortunately for us, it was somebody in there that probably didn't agree, that videoed it and leaked the video of him making these comments. So thing that is concerning is he said the major priority, meaning that's the number one thing that they actually want to do, not make things affordable for families, not bring down the cost of food and energy, and housing. They want to go after immigrants and make it their number one priority, to satisfy this administration. So I'm concerned about it, but no, we didn't know that they were meeting with Stephen Miller.
It's funny that you say he said we're going to go after immigrants. And when we look at what's happened in Minneapolis, they are attacking U.S. citizens. So there's no way that we should believe that that is the agenda. And looking at, what's happened in Minneapolis, so many people are saying that the Civil War has started. I mean, I know that's debatable. They're also saying that, our political and elected officials aren't going to save us. When you hear, voters say things like our political leaders are not going to save us. When you hear, I'm going to say it again, when you hear voters say things like that, what's your response? How do you feel?
Well, my first thought is that when I hear people say that, they're saying we have to save ourselves. We can't rely on our political leaders, because when the Republican National Committee decided that they were going to push their agenda to the state level and put all this money into taking over these state houses, that's when you saw this shifting and all these states proposing all this crazy legislation. So they have the super majority, particularly in most of the southern states. So yeah, the leaders who want to save them, want to fight for them, are in the minority and super minority in most of these states. So yeah, we can fight it, but they got the numbers to pass it. So the people have to rise up. The people got to show up. And that's why I think there were hundreds of people on Capitol Hill here on our first day of session, because they're like, we're not having this. We're coming after you. We're going, and this is on, this is some R's in this crowd too. It's not just Democrats. It's not just independents. It's some R's in this crowd of people that are fighting back. So when I hear that, I'm encouraged that people, want to see the change and that they want to be about making the change, because that's what we need. We need other voices speaking up, saying, this is not right. This is not what we voted for. This is not what we want in our country, So I'm encouraged by them saying that.
Okay, I like that. When and so when you say ours, you're talking about Republicans. And so
yes,
on a day-to-day, on a day-to-day operation, in the Capitol, they're talking about these bills that they want to pass. Are they talking to you guys about it, or are they just like, we don't have to talk to you because we got the votes?
Generally, is we don't have to talk to you. We got the votes.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, this is what power does to the brain. You lose empathy for people. You don't even recognize yourself anymore. It's about the power to do it just because you can do it. Not because it's rational, reasonable thing to do. We can do it. We're going to do it. We want to be first. The president is with us and all of this stuff. You lose empathy for people.
Right. So I want to cast
life anymore. Yeah.
Before we let you go, I want to cast a wider net. You are the chair or a leader of the Black Leaders Legislative Network, which is a group of Black electeds on a state level. Talk to us about some of the work that you're going. We know the midterms are happening this year, and some of those elections will affect state elections. So talk to us about how the Black Legislative Network is going to be engaged with this 2026 midterm election.
Well, the Black Legislative Leaders Network is not a political organization. It's an organization of Blacks who have risen up in leadership across the country in these state houses. So you have your speakers, your Senate presidents. And what we do is we come together to help train, mentor, be support for one another in these positions. So if you're experiencing something in Tennessee like I am, and I'm the leader here, and someone in Mississippi or Arkansas is having a problem that's similar, we help each other. We may, the organization may dispatch someone to Maine if we need to help the new speaker stand up her office, give her the things that she needs. So we are a network to support one another as we are trying to navigate these very troubling waters that we're experiencing in this country right now. We're more about training, understanding, and helping one another. Now, because that doesn't mean we don't care about the upcoming elections.
Mm-hmm.
You see, because we understand if we have more people like us, more people with this level of understanding, more people who care about the citizens in this country, then we have to get them elected.
Right,
So,
right.
in 2026 is going to be crucial. And I know people say, well, every election people say is crucial, but it really is, because you used the term earlier. And this is how a lot of people feel. Feels like civil war. This is America coming face to face with itself. This is America saying for years, this is who we are. We have open borders. We have people come in. We're a melting pot. Now it's like, we kind of really didn't mean that. We don't want you here, whatever. So now America has to come face to face with itself. And so 2026 is going to be very crucial in how people push back on these agendas, on how people turn out to vote for different representation. And we have to make sure that the leaders who are running in these positions are prepared and ready and have what they need to be equipped to, in fact, run for these positions and get elected.
Right. And so I want to pivot back before we let you go to Tennessee. We know the session just opened this week. What are your priorities? Although they're going to be hard to get through, for your agenda, what do you want for your constituents in the state of Tennessee? And what is the other side of the aisle, the Democrats doing or pushing for this legislative session?
We are all about making life affordable for people. What I've heard more than anything else, even in my last Friday, I had a leadership lunch with the Leaders Program. People think things just cost too much. Energy costs too much. Food costs too much. Housing, people say affordable housing, but it's still $300,000 and stuff like that. So we're trying to reduce the cost and provide an affordable lifestyle for people who feel like, hey, I'm getting up, going to work every day. I can't even afford to basically live. So most of our legislation is going to be around how do we make life more affordable for citizens in the state of Tennessee. Some incentives for affordable housing, as an example. Incentives to reduce the cost of food. There's at least two bills to take away taxes on food. We still have tax on food here. Just things like that. That's what we're talking about. What can we do to affect the everyday life of a citizen in the state of Tennessee and make it more comfortable, more affordable for them to live?
And on a final note, as we celebrate, we'll be celebrating from today until Monday, the work and service of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And you really can't have that conversation without, thinking about all of the civil rights leaders and organizations that have contributed, to the betterment of this country. How do you plan on spending your day today when you think about Dr. King?
Well, we do have session today. So
what are you guys going to acknowledge him in session? Can you acknowledge him in session? Okay.
We always do. I will. So that's bipartisan. That's never been an issue around Dr. King. They like to quote him now. But we'll go in session. It'll probably be a very short session because it's not a legislation, not a lot of legislation in the queue. People will stand up and make their pleasantries and things like that. After that, I'm going home because I got to celebrate my birthday. My family wanted me to come home, but I also have a meeting tonight. Organization who is very civically engaged. I'm a member of the Order of the Eastern Star, and we have a meeting tonight to talk about our civic engagement, our Day on the Hill that's coming up. Another organization that I'm showing some interest in have activity on Saturday. So I'll be volunteering over at the Lemoyne College on Saturday. Then, of course, Monday is the big culminating event in Memphis. Well, really everywhere, I guess, but in Memphis at the Civil Rights Museum, it's always a day of service. We collect food, for, help feed the hungry. We go down and it's always a great, wonderful time. So Memphis is always electric around this whole weekend. There's going to be activities going on, dinners and lunches and breakfasts throughout the entire city. Every church is going to have something wonderful. So it's always electric, the Martin Luther King week in Memphis.
All right. Well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Happy King Day.
Yes.
And be safe. And we'll definitely, for our prayer warriors in the chat, we really have to be prayerful with that antidote of faith that produces action. So thank you for all of the action that you are putting forth to preserve the legacy of Dr. King and all those who helped, with the dream and civil rights. So peace and love and be safe.
Peace and love to you and happy King Day.
Thank you. So as we say, we're celebrating the life and legacy of Dr. King. We're remembering, the civil rights movement, but we're also dealing with, the rollback of those civil rights and how we continue to move forward and keep our joy as Black people in this country. So this week we got a little bit of joy from one of the civil rights organizations that is considered part of the Big Six. And I'm talking about the NAACP Awards. So of course they announced the nominees for the 57th annual NAACP Image Awards. So joining us now to have a conversation about joy, the NAACP Awards, and what it means to continue to fight for the dream today is Vice Chair of the NAACP. Welcome, Karen Boykin-Towns. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you? Thank you so much for having me.
No, it's such an honor to have you and such an important legacy organization on a day like this. It's a somber day, but it's also a day to remember the struggle. If you continue to fight and persist, you can win. You can win.
Absolutely. We had one of our slogans for our convention a couple of years ago was, when we fight, we win.
That's right.
We know that when we and sometimes the win isn't always exactly like we want, but it's always about moving the needle forward, and it's about progress. And so this is a time where we have to be sure we are acknowledging those wins, because there's a lot of work to do. And sometimes, as you know, we just do, and we don't take a moment to say, we did that. Okay, now let's get back to work, right? So it's important, and joy, through all of it, we must find those speckles for sure. And so this week was a big week for us with the announcement of the nominees for the 57th NAACP Image Awards.
I'll give you a fun fact. That award, my cousin designed it.
Oh my God.
Pecolia Williams. Willis Edwards. I know. I important name.
I was on the board. I served with Willis, and he was someone that was a dear friend and mentor, and he continues to be missed. Thank you for bringing up his name. Wow.
Yes. So I'm here in LA, and he was a mentor. And so I had him on my show one day, and I don't know how we got on the subject, but I told him about my cousin. He said, I've been looking for him. And so it was an honor to reconnect them together. And then Willis invited him to the award that year. Because my cousin is so humble. He was just, when he said it, I was like, what? So I want to talk about. Yeah, I want to talk about the Image Awards, but first, I want to talk to you about the dream versus reality of today. And I want to, get your sense. If Dr. King were looking at the state of voting access and the big ugly bill today, what do you think would be his call to action for the youth of 2026?
I think that that's a great question, and I would think that his message would be, don't grow weary.
Mm.
I think it would be, don't grow weary. I think it would be a reminder that they are powerful and that there has been no social justice movement that has not been successful without their involvement, and that they are powerful, and they should continue. And I think that's the same message for all of us, quite frankly, because I think that our community has gotten a bit weary. Some are resting. But I think that every day we are seeing these images that you would never expect to be in our country. And yet it requires us, everyone, to step up and do something. I think our forever First Lady said, do something. And I say all the time, you don't have to have a title and a legacy civil rights organization to do something. We are all powerful in our sphere of influence, whether it's in our families, whether it's in our churches, in our on our block. And so it's important that we share information, good information, truthful information. And this is a place, a trusted news source where you can get credible information. But it's important that we step up and that we realize that it can get worse.
Yeah.
And the 2026 elections, and we have a saying in the NAACP, we are nonpartisan, but we are political as hell. And it is critically important that while we don't necessarily pick a party, it is very important that we speak to our Black and Brown communities to let them know the issues that they are confronting, but more importantly, what they can do. And voting is really the most important tactic, the most important thing that we can do to make our voices heard. And you hear all the time, the people say, well, I voted, and okay, but did you take other people to vote?
Right.
Did you use your network in which to tell other people? And so it's about each one, teach one, each one bring five, not one, bring five, but that we really get serious about this, because things are really serious.
And to that, to stay civically engaged, because when we think about, what this whole Republican and Heritage Foundation did leading up to getting Donald Trump elected, is that they were civically engaged on local issues like school boards, which is how this whole KUKA crazy critical race theory, which is not even a thing, came up, and they were able to take over school boards. So I think being civically engaged and not just stopping at the ballot box. I mean, you can't be on the teachers board, the police commission, the commission and status of women. You can't do it all, but pick one. Just pick one. And then you brought up another point.
And to your point, which is an excellent one. Everyone, the sexiness of Washington, everyone's focused on what's happening in DC. But the real impact on our lives comes in our city councils, our town halls, our state legislatures. And I saw you had the representative from Tennessee on before me. And it is so important. And like you said, the school board, in some places you elect your sheriff. I live here in Brooklyn, New York, so we don't elect sheriffs. But around the country, that is a big role. And depending on who is the sheriff depends on how you are treated, and how the police respond. And so you're right. It is civically engaged from the top to the bottom, and ensuring that you use your voice in whatever the NAACP is the vehicle that I choose, but there are a number of vehicles, and it's just pick one.
Right. Pick one, just one, and
Yeah.
stay civically engaged. You
Yeah.
brought up another point that the NAACP is nonpartisan, but political. And I think, that's what, Black folks, Black agencies and institutions, because I thought about the Black press. And, we report the news, but there is a huge advocacy piece that the Black press is able to do like no other.
Like,
Not
no,
only do we give you the candidates, but your local Black newspaper might have a souls to the poll bus
that's right.
that's going to take you to vote. And so I think that's what makes the Black experience in this country very unique. And which brings me to, my next thought when we talk about Dr. King and, as we prepare to have like a full weekend, days of service and serving our community, there was a wind behind Dr. King, and it was known as the Big Six, right? The NAACP was one of those agencies. And of course, Dorothy Heights was arguably one of them. I say she was, okay?
She definitely was.
But I want to talk about, as we talk about Dr. King, can you give us a little taste, for those who may not know, what was the role of the NAACP during that time in the civil rights movement?
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I mean, I think that you have Dr. King, who it's funny how history has a way of time, but we all know that during his time, he was having a tough time himself. All of our community was not necessarily supportive, and so we have to remember that, when you are looking to do the right thing, when you are trying to lead and bring people to to be active, there's always going to be those that are not supportive. And so in this day and time, when you hear, well, what are they doing? What are they, what is the NAACP doing? What is NAN doing? What is the Urban League doing? At the end of the day, we all have a role to play, and we can't get distracted. And Dr. King did not get distracted by the naysayers.
Right.
You hope that by doing it, by modeling it, you will bring people along, and you hope that there's an understanding that this isn't about an individual, this is about the collective. And so the NAACP for next month, 117 years, 117 years has been that institution that has been on the front lines. And I will be the first to say, we have not always gotten it right, but we have been here. Right. And I don't know if most people are aware that the NAACP is made up of volunteers. So yes, I'm one of the leaders of the organization, but I'm a volunteer, as are all of those who are in your local communities, leading as presidents, as secretaries, as members, all volunteers. And so we count on people being willing to join this organization, help lead this organization. And that requires us to ensure, like Dr. King, that we are training people, right?
Right,
that
right.
when you raise your hand and say you want to be a leader, do you know what it means to be a fundraiser? Do you know how to be a spokesperson? Do you know how to be an organizer? So we're asking a lot of people to step up and do that, but they are all over this country. We have 2,200 units and college chapters and youth councils where they have taken up the mantle, and some are doing great. Yeah. And then there are others that are struggling, and it's our responsibility to help bring them to the level so that they can be the best advocates in their neighborhoods, in their communities, to get other people to want to join. And so I think when I look back at Dr. King, and certainly I am not one of those people who marched with Dr. King, and I love when I talk to my, elders, and many of them on the national board, and within the association who was with Dr. King during those times. It's one where we find ourselves now, where we are voting, where we are fighting for the voting rights, where we're fighting against voter suppression, where we are fighting for pay equity, where we are fighting for educational opportunities and economic opportunities. And I was talking to our historian, Dr. Amos Brown, who you may know out of San
Yeah.
Francisco, who
He was on the reparations committee here in California.
Yeah, so I was talking to him Tuesday. I was flying back from LA on Tuesday. And he was just sharing the moment that we're in now and the similarity to before, and how we have to stay focused, how we have to continue to put one foot in front of the other, and how we can't be despair. We can't suffer in despair. We cannot be dismayed. And during this leading into Martin Luther King weekend, how it's a time of action. Not a holiday, a day of action for each of us to find ways that we can recommit, particularly in a consequential year as 2026.
And shout out, you talked about young people, shout out to Wisdom, who
Wisdom
was
Cole. Absolutely.
Yeah, he was very instrumental with helping people get a lot of their student loan debt dismissed 100%. And he spoke truth to power even when Biden was in office. So, I mean, it's not that the NAACP picks a side, they pick the side of what's right for people of color. And speaking of people of color, and we talk about, strides and moving forward, a huge thing that the NAACP did was present an opportunity for people of color to be celebrated in Hollywood, and that our representation does matter, which brings us to the Image Awards. Nominees broke this week. So talk to us, like when the NAACP comes, it's a week of activities, right? You guys have your golf tournament, your fashion show, your creative awards. Why is the NAACP award so important to Hollywood?
I'm sorry, I was looking at the footage, and so I should also note that I am a chair of the NAACP Image Award Committee and one of the executive producers of the live show that airs on BET and CBS. So
that's huge.
Along with being an overall leader in the organization, the Image Awards is my baby.
Okay. So you work with Kyle Bowser. You work with Kyle Bowser. Kyle Bowser?
Yep. Kyle is in our Hollywood bureau, and Robin Harrison and Iris Sims. Yeah, so we have an amazing team. It's this week was an amazing week. We kicked off with the nominee announcements with President Johnson and Dion Cole on CBS Mornings. And they revealed, I think it was 5 categories, of which we have over 90. I don't know that a lot of people know. We have about over 90 categories, and the public is invited to vote. And voting opened on Monday, and it will remain open until February 13th. And people should just go to naacpimageawards.net. And it's not all categories, but it is a large number of the categories, those that are non-specialized. So the ones like Motion Picture Entertainment of the Year, Supporting Actress in a Drama, all of those sorts of ones are available for voting. And it's an exciting time. Entertainer of the Year, we have a subcommittee on our Image Awards committee that picks Entertainer of the Year, the nominees to be voted on. And when we solidified them in early December, we were excited. We thought we had an amazing list. And so when it got released on Monday, people have lost their minds. Just, Cynthia Erivo, Doechii, Kendrick Lamar, The It Girl, Tiana Taylor, and Michael B. Jordan. And so everyone is just so excited about that category. and the others as well. And the
Yeah,
others as well.
and I think the what's so cool about the NAACP is, those are high profile names, but you don't have to be high profile to be nominated and to get in the mix of things. And so, what I love about the NAACP, it's the notable names, and then it's somebody that you may be introduced to.
Yeah.
And then the authors that you honor, for books that we love. As the executive producer, can you give us any insight to what we might get at the show this year? A little something.
All of my interviews I've been asked that question, and the other producers, they hold it very close to the vest. What I will say, which is very exciting and soon to come, is our special awards, our President's Award, our Chairman's Award, and our Mildred Bond Roxborough Social Justice Impact Award winners. They will be announced in the coming weeks, and I think people are going to be just chef's kiss on those. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
For the live show, Dion Cole, this is his second year with us. He is just a comedic genius and socially aware. And so I think that he is going to keep it lively. He's going to keep it moving. And I think when you span the audience, people are going to be like, oh my gosh, there's this one, there's that one. But the point that you made, I made on Monday on one of the interviews, because one of the things I love is that, yes, when you see Entertainer of the Year, they're the names that everyone knows. But there are so many great projects that we produce, that we birth, that we put out there, and many times does not get recognized, if not but for the NAACP. And one of the movies that I'm so excited to see nominated is Sarah's Oil.
I want to see that. That's on my list of movies to see.
Yeah,
I'm just waiting for it to be free on streaming platform.
That's a movie that is a true story that most did not know. I know I didn't. And it in award season, right? It's not being talked about for the Oscars and the whatever, but it is being celebrated. And a lot of us went to see the movie and love it. And so that is the great thing, because we are the culture.
Right.
We are the culture, and we have so many different stories to be told. We are the epitome of excellence. And so the Image Awards is really about celebrating that and recognizing us, celebrating us. And this year's theme is We See You. And in this environment right now, it means a lot to be seen, because it seems and looks as though society is trying to erase us. So to say we see you and to be able to honor you, and there's nothing like the NAACP Image Awards week, because it's like homecoming. It's like a family reunion. And it's just really an opportunity for us to love on each other, to celebrate each other, to lift each other up, because it can be trying. It can be tough. It can be draining. And so to be able to love on, lift up, and say, we see you, is a way for us to recognize each other and give us the fuel to continue on.
Right. Like Teddy Pendergrass said, cold world. It definitely is. So during that week, we're all warm and fuzzy and having a good time. And then we go back out to the cold world.
Yeah.
Nancy Wall, one of our viewers, is saying, I like how we can vote for what we like and watch. She said, I voted. Greer dropped the link in the chat so everybody can go head over and vote for the NAACP Image Awards. I know we're running out of time, but before we let you go, how are you spending your King Day or your King weekend? How are you going to remember Dr. King?
Well, first off, I want to give a shout out to all the AKAs. Happy Founders Day. Happy
Okay.
Founders Day. I am a Zeta, and so our Founders Day is tomorrow. So for me, there are NACP activities taking place, some all week, some on this weekend, some on Monday, all over the country. But I will be close to home because my father-in-law, former Congressman Adolphus Ed Towns, will be the speaker at the Metropolitan Interdenominational Ministers Conference here in Brooklyn, and asked all of the family to please be there. And so I will be celebrating with the ministers here in Brooklyn as they lift up the importance of not just Dr. King's life, but what it is that we need to be doing in this moment. And so I will be there. I'm excited that our Zeta sisters will be in Jackson, Mississippi for an activation that unfortunately I could not be at tomorrow and the weekend. But it's a day and weekend of remembrance, but also a reflection on where we are. And there's a lot to reflect on where we are, but more importantly, the things that we can be doing to make a difference, because our young people's future and our unborn children's future are really at stake. We owe it to ourselves, and we owe it to this country to help get it right.
Right, because it's our country too. I don't care what they say. It's our country too.
It is our country too.
So let it be known, family, we've been talking with Vice Chair Karen Boykin-Towns of the NAACP. We want to say happy pre-Founders Day to you, right? And if you want to keep up with the work, the advocacy, and know what the call to actions are with the NAACP, how can they keep up? What's the website?
Right. So follow us on all platforms at NAACP, and the website is naacp.org. And it's important to know that the NAACP is in just about every community around this country. And so while you see us nationally as leaders, at the same time, you can join your local NAACP branch. A membership is $30. It's $10 for those that are under 25. And it's a way to get involved. And we need everyone, no matter the level, because we are only as good as those that are members. And so many of you have talents as it relates to communications. You have talents as it relates to organizing. You have talents as it relates to education. You know, we need teachers. We need those in the health field to join our health committee to ensure that we are talking on those issues of Black maternal health, on coverage for medicines, coverage for healthcare. You know, we see what's happening with the Affordable Care Act trying to be gutted. It is important that we make our voices known, and we are from the bottom up, not the top down. And so we look forward to doing the work in coalition with not just each other in the NAACP, but we work with our Divine Nine colleagues, definitely the other civil rights leaders, the religious community, the Shriners, the Eastern Stars, NCNW. You know,
it takes a village.
It takes a village. And there's no one organization, not even the NAACP, who's been around 117 years. We can't do it by ourselves. And so it's not about competition. It's about cooperation and coalition building and collaboration. And so that is really the way that we win.
Right. And that goes back to the Big Six, you know, from at the beginning. You know, it took a coalition. But thank you so much for joining us. And don't forget, Saturday, February 28th, 8 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific on BET and CBS. The 57th annual NAACP Awards will be held, and we will celebrate Black excellence. And we'll also be on the lookout for the Chairman Award, the President's Award, and those special awards that you were telling us about.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for your time, and you're doing
Likewise.
a great job with this programming. And make sure you continue to take care of yourself, because this is a long road, and so we must practice self-care while we do all the other things,
right,
to help our community.
Same to you, and peace and love.
Peace and love. Take care.
Right. You too. Well, we hope you have been informed, empowered, and inspired by today's show. And so we're going to go out with some Black history facts. And of course, we've been talking about the Honorable Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King all day. But for those of you who are still under a rock, because I see some of y'all under a rock in the chat, on this day, a king was born, and he became the face of the civil rights movement, advocating for equality through nonviolent resistance. He earned what some people are desperately seeking. He earned a Nobel Peace Prize, rightfully so. And he led events like the Montgomery bus boycott and the March on Washington with organizations like the NAACP, with Black leadership, like we talked with Karen Camper today, with the Urban League, with the National Council of Women, Dorothy Heights. So there was an array of the Pullman Porters. There was an array of people, white, black, red, yellow, and brown, that all came together to resist what an example of today, the current administration is trying to do, take our civil rights, roll them back. And so may today you be inspired by everything that was against all those Black people during that day. They still resisted, and we got the Voting Rights Act of 1964. Well, Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. So it's possible for us to maintain, but we just have to have the courage like those Black folks did back then, and Dr. King. So we also want to highlight, we're going to bring it fast forward. Remember King Holiday? It was recorded by the King Dream Course, a holiday crew. It was recorded in 1986 to celebrate Dr. King's first national holiday, when it was made a holiday, and it featured Whitney Houston, New Edition, Run DMC, Curtis Blow, and it had the chorus Sing, Celebrate. So all this week, for the rest of the week and the weekend, may you sing, celebrate, and perform of act of service in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King. We'll be back tomorrow with more news, views, and headlines, and we'll have the phenomenon, the Black Press phenomenon of the week. Miss Lynn will be right here with us, going through headlines and talking about her phenomenal week. So tap in and have an active service today. Peace and love.
Happy birthday.